Well, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite public land hunts and how that came together, and it was very, very little scouting, mostly e-scouting. But I wanted to talk about how that relates to concepts and how you should hunt. It doesn't matter if you're building it on your private land or you're scouting it on public land. In fact, our digital land management platform that we're developing, company, it's whitetailstrategy.com. These are the concepts that are infused on there. So just check it out, whitetailstrategy.com. You can sign up for information and send you out a questionnaire, that kind of thing. But regardless, this is how I hunt anywhere a whitetail roams. It doesn't really matter. I want to show you this build up to this and why it all relates to anywhere. First of all, food. And I want to talk about food, and I'll illustrate food in red. This is an area where road coming in over here. It's a road right here. This is a road over here. Road down here, main road down here, little side road coming in right here, side road coming in right here. So those actual equal, and this is in the UP of Michigan, but it equaled a lot of places where people would bait, a lot of big bait hunting up there. And when you're baiting, which 95% of all hunters in that area were baiting, or maybe even 98, I hardly ever met someone that wasn't baiting. And I didn't like to bait because I wanted to get in the middle of all those people that were baiting. But when they're baiting, they're driving to the end of a two-track or a road, and they're not going to carry bait in a half mile. In fact, a lot of times they're driving their four-wheeler to it, even on public land. They're throwing out bait in front of their blind, and if they can't drive to it, they're not going to walk more than a couple hundred yards. That's a lot of weight to carry, even if you're abiding to the 2-gallon limit, which a lot of people weren't anyways, or 5-gallon, whatever the limit is now. But let's look at it this way. You take an area. This is 3 miles north to south, 3 miles east to west. That means that all these areas by X's have bait piles, and when you're on a public land area, then where there's bait piles, that is the food source. That's where all the bucks go to. And I knew at one time of over 20 bait piles within a couple miles of where I hunted. You could find them. How do you find them? You find them by go in the off season, you find a concentration of rubs, you find signs of bait, find signs of a blind. It's easy to see, really easy. Where you found concentrations of rubs up there. Rubs meant something. So when I found a rub in a funnel back here, all the dark being woods, when I found a rub in a funnel, then I knew, and it was active and it was big, you knew there was a big buck out there and you had a good chance of killing him. Because you get away from all of these red areas. Like all these X's are stand locations, blind locations, bait piles, all the way around here. Kind of imagine that whole big thing. So by the time you get from this area to this area, you're about 3 miles from one area. So you're hunting a core area that might be 2.5 by 3 miles. That's what I like to look on public land. Different on private land, because you might be doing this compacting it all onto 80 acres. The difference here is I could go hunt here, 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 somewhere within that 1,000 acres that I'm hunting. And if I mess up over here, I can go over here. I have different spots. Completely different. I often say like this, you know, I shot this big, nice 8-point, big mature buck, 150-inch 8-point, 148 inches, I believe, up there in public land. Shot him out here, scouted one day, saw that he was using this funnel line, didn't know what buck it was, just a mature buck. Go sit on him for opening day, didn't see him. The wind was good 2 days later. I go in there and shoot him at 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning because he's nowhere near these bait piles. Lots of hunting pressure. He's away from that food. So we're identifying areas where you can't hunt. It's around these people. You don't want to. You want to identify a core area, and then I want to go on the inside of that core area, and I want to hunt. And that's where I look at, like, I've never seen another hunter out in those locations. And I applied this. Doesn't matter if it's public land in Pennsylvania. Dylan and Jen and I went out and hunted this year for a day and a half. We didn't see another hunter. And well, we walked a lot. I think it was 2 hours in. The opening day was an hour and maybe hour and a half the second day when we went in more direct. The bottom line is we get into that same type of core area away from parking areas, and that puts us on deer. So we're getting away from people. That's part of it. We'll be right back to the video, but I'm really excited to announce our 4th annual Camp Kicking Bear charity event. Every dime we raise goes to Kicking Bear. We have spots, Habitat Day spots. It's an all-day affair. Starts at 10 o'clock on June 15th. That's a Habitat Day. We provide lunch, breakfast, refreshments, plenty of time for questions. It's $200 per person. You can bring your kids. Kids are free. We had 43 kids last year. It's open to 60 people. We already have over half those spots taken. And then we also raffle off at that time. You can buy $100 raffle tickets for a hunt on our property. It takes place at the end of September. We host you. We love having you out. We have a great time with that. We made good friends with the 3 previous winners with that. It's been a lot of fun. Every dime, again, goes to Kicking Bear. We have a great time. Make sure to check it out in the link in the description. Now back to the video. And that puts us on deer. So we're getting away from people. That's part of it. Then you're recognizing that when you have food, does are going to be behind that food, and then bucks are going to be back in that core area. In wilderness, big woods, public land settings, you find that from food source, doesn't matter if it's a neighboring ag land, golf course, subdivision, some type of food source, food plots on neighboring land, then you're going to find that when bucks have space, they're going to go back and they're going to bed 3/4 of a mile to a mile away from where all that hunter intrusion is. They're not used to hunter intrusion. So when they see it, they go a long ways. You know, around here in ag land, it might be a 1/4 mile, 200 yards from that food source, 400 yards, 600 yards at the most. Up there, it's up to a mile or more. And they'll go every afternoon. They're racking these bait piles. I shot this buck. I had 3 people out here tell me they had pictures of it in the middle of the night. They barely had any chance of shooting that buck. Where I'm out here, I had a very high likelihood of shooting the oldest buck in the neighborhood on public land. Pretty easy hunt. Scout it, scout the funnel, fresh sign, use winds blowing. This is marsh. These blue little squiggly lines are marsh area. I walk through the marsh, no trail, no markers, compass, walk in, hunt the funnel, blow your scent back into the marsh where it's a non-deer area, and pretty defined. That's why I couldn't hunt the second day of the season, because it was blowing north and south through there. I was going to blow that area out. So you find that core buck bedding area, which on private land, big ag, might be 200 yards away from his food source. Wilderness, it might be a mile or more, but you define that area. And then you define that movement. This buck is coming down to all these bait piles. You know he is. He's following these funnels along the creek up. Well, then you come in from the side. I would actually go all the way around, walk in from the side. It took me 40 minutes to get back there. And no trail, nothing, just swamp. Walking through marsh, knee boots. You had to have knee boots and you had to know where to walk, because it could get really deep if you went in the wrong location. So I actually had to go out of my way to get in, because I couldn't walk a straight line. I had to go through deep water. But that same water allowed me to blow my scent into there. So once you define that line of movement, that buck core area is here. Define that with a sign. You can see that when you're scouting. Look for old historical sign. Look for these setups. You think, well, this is away from people, parking areas. This is a funnel along a creek. I can come in from this way. Everything looks like it should be. I'm far enough away that I should get away from people, at least 95% of people. And in this case, I've never seen anyone out there. And I can get in there, and if there's fresh sign, sit down with the right wind and wait for them to come through in the middle of the day. The cool thing is you're going around all that sign, all around that food, and getting in. No different than if you have 80 acres or 40 acres hunting on private land. You go around the food, come in from the side, sit on the edge of that bedding area, core area, buck area, blow your scent to the outside. It's the same exact thing. Doesn't matter if it's public or private land. And then when you come in, you're coming in perpendicular to the movement. I'm looking at the movement is this way. You know, that's going up and down somewhere. Maybe they come in from this way. So that means I come in from this direction, perpendicular to the movement. I'm going way away from that food, and you have those deer come into your lap. You know what's interesting about this hunt? In my 2012 book, that was my first book I published, Whitetail Success by Design, I talk about all the concepts that I manage with. They're all my original concepts. I look at things differently. And so this is all mine. I never had a mentor or anything for any of this stuff. So I looked at all this. I wanted to write my concepts down in that book. I published it around Labor Day of 2012. I largely published that book because I wanted to put my own ideas in print, because I know there's a lot of people that copy them. A lot of these things, depth of cover, paralleling habitat feature, bedding layers, those are all my concepts. I put them in that book before anyone else could copy them. And I copy them all the time nowadays, but that's why I published that book at that time, because those are mine. So I detailed a story about this hunt in the morning. And it was this hunt we're talking about in this 8-point. I came into this hunt, came in perpendicular access to the line of movement, got into this core area. I'm away from doe bedding, away from where the food sources are. I'm in a remote area. I made sure I was away from people. and I wait for that buck to come back to me. There was a sign out there to know that he was in the area, not knowing which one he was or how big. And he was actually the biggest one I ever saw up there. But bottom line is, all those concepts that talk about this hunt, not even telling people it's on public land. In the conclusion, I revealed that I shot the buck, shot him at like 40 yards with the rifle. He was coming through, just like we saw him at 1 in the afternoon on opening day, going in that same area. Had to wait for the winds 2 days later, go in there. So I talk about shooting that buck and talk about how it was on public land. And how all these concepts that we just talked about, people would think it's a private land book, when really it's just about how whitetail move and relate to people anywhere a whitetail roams, including a swamp, public land location where there's a lot of hunters and bait piles going on. No different than if your food source is your food plot or your neighbor's food plot on private land. You still have to hunt the same. And that's how all those concepts wrap together. And that's why it's important to illustrate for me and why I use that as an intro and conclusion of my book, because I wanted to let you know that those concepts apply anywhere. And those are the same concepts, again, they're putting in that digital land management platform through whitetailstrategy.com. To me, this is how you hunt. Doesn't matter if it's public land, private land, it works. You can apply it anywhere a whitetail roams. You can apply it where you hunt, multiple properties. If you look at deer this way and you establish these hot zones right here and understand why mature bucks should be there, or the oldest, mature being all relative, doesn't matter if it's a 2-3-year-old or a 5-6-year-old in your area, the oldest bucks in the neighborhood, they should be in those locations because you've recognized that layering effect. You've gotten in around the side, around food. You know where food sets doe, and I would imagine those does and fawns mostly, and I know they do for a fact, bed in this location. Hardly ever saw a doe back there. Dylan and I hunted. We already ever saw deer. Dylan and I hunted there for 2 days straight.
Saw a nice spike.
Saw a spike, but how many does and fawns did we see?
0.
It was cold, wasn't it?
It was freezing.
It felt so good going to the little party stop.
Days.
Yeah, the party store afterwards and getting a beer and warming up. Just, yeah, anyways, it felt good just to move afterwards and walk in and out. So Dylan's knows the walk in and out. Anyways, Dylan, there are big bucks back there.
Yeah, sure.
I'm telling you.
Killed the one.
Yeah. But anyways, I've actually, last time I hunted there was 2 seasons ago. I hunted up in the UP for the first time in 80s, 87, 88, and I still enjoy going up there and hunting public land. We hunted private land or public land in Pennsylvania. That's even bigger woods almost. It's big hardwoods. It's different. It's hilly out there. Same exact concepts. Again, I hope this makes sense. This will help you find hot spots in this off season on public land, but it'll also help you build hot spots on private land. Found these same exact concepts, which can give you a lifetime of successful hunting anywhere a whitetail roams. It's Monday, and that means big shipment time for seeds. We have a lot of orders over the weekend, and Daryl in New York, he bought a lot of seed. In fact, a lot of this pallet is his. We've shipped to 48 states so far. We haven't shipped any to Alaska and Hawaii, but Daryl, we have some extra goodies coming your way. We appreciate it. We'll try to do that every week too. So we really thank you guys. This is that time of year. We have lots of seed going out the door. Wes is working hard behind me, getting that out, and we try to get that out the next day after your order.